Good morning, everybody. It is Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, January 9th, 2026. If you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations, both professional salespeople and accidental sellers, to help them do one thing and one thing only: increase their sales. And if you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, or let's say almost every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live interview or I do a live training. And today I do have a live interview for you if our guest shows up. We'll see if that happens. While we're waiting for her, there were a thing or two that I wanted to mention. First of all, it's the beginning of the year. I love a blank slate. I love the fact that we have almost 365 days to talk to people, sell, help them get involved with our products and achieve or exceed our quotas. It means there's plenty of time, but what that often does to salespeople is, because they've got an entire year, they relax in the beginning. Let's get everything straightened out from the end of the year. Let's set up everything right in our CRM. Let's clean off our desk. Well, you should have been doing that over the holidays. Now is the time to dig in. And I mean dig in hard, because if you work hard now, then by maybe halfway through the year, you've already achieved your quota, or at least you're well on the way to it. And then you are going to have a much better chance of actually achieving it. I've worked with reps more than once where they'll kind of take it easy, and then they get halfway through the year and they realize they've got a lot of making up to do. The other thing I'd like you to keep in mind is, if you need help, now is the time to get it. Don't wait till October or November when it looks like there's no way you're going to hit your quota or no way you're going to make enough money. Don't wait until then to go to your manager and ask for help, or a coach and ask for help, or anybody to ask for help. Now is the time to get it. If I can help you in any way, feel free to reach out to me. But get the help you need now, so that you've got most of a year to actually work on to fix problems and work on them in a way that's going to ensure that by the end of the year, you actually do either hit or exceed your quota. One other thing, and our guest showed up, so I'm very happy. One other thing I'll tell you before we bring her on is this. I have a free, and I mean totally free, you don't even have to give me your email address. Well, actually, yeah, you would have to give me your email address, but I have a totally free income tracker, and it's just a simple Excel spreadsheet with some colors on it that I put together. It allows you to put in your goal. It has each week for 52 weeks, and it shows you what your goal is. Every time you get paid, you put what your income was, and it automatically calculates how much you've made so far for the year, how much you need to go to achieve your goal, and how many weeks you have until left to achieve that goal. If you email me at jeff@salesconfidencelab.com, that's jeff@salesconfidencelab.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn and just say tracker. That's all you need to do. I'll email it to you for free. You're not going to start you might get some emails from me, but yeah, it's a freebie. And with that, I'm going to bring up our guest, because I'm very excited to talk to her. Our guest is the founder and CEO of UNWWO Corp. She's an award-winning leader in workplace innovation, and her company helps other companies to redefine workplace culture as a strategic asset and create inclusive environments that drive growth and profitability. Please welcome our guest today, Geeta Sidhu-Robb. Good morning, Geeta.
Hey, good morning.
I'm happy to be speaking with you, Geeta. Am I correct? Are you in England?
I am, yeah. I'm in London.
We're talking internationally right at the beginning of the year, guys. I'm very excited to talk to Geeta. Geeta, before I go into the 1,000,001 questions I have for you today, could you maybe give us the 2 to 3 minute version of your background? What brought you up to this point?
I think it's always harder to do 2 to 3 minutes, isn't it? Than like bore you forever. I'm an ex-lawyer. I became a single parent, and it changed everything I was doing, because then I became an entrepreneur because I worked from home because I had a sick child. And I think that was kind of, for me, the entrepreneurship is the freedom run, where you actually manage to make your own life. And that's how you make life work. But in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to sell. And so I'm pretty sure selling was the beginning of the making that life.
Yeah. I don't think we talked about this when we pre-interviewed, but I actually created a program, which I'm very excited about. And we're in the second cohort right now. And it's specifically for people who didn't go into sales on purpose. I call them accidental sellers. Like, I'm a professional salesperson. I've been selling for 50 years. That's all I've ever done. Well, almost all I've ever done. But let's say you're a coach. Let's say you're a relationship coach. You'll help people have better relationships. Or let's say you're a coach that helps people with sick kids deal with that and how to thrive and help them and all that stuff. You did not go into coaching to sell. You went into coaching to help parents take care of their kids and have better lives and all that stuff. But here's the thing, and you kind of hinted at it. If you can't sell, you're going to starve. You can't serve people unless you can sell. So I call it the Sales Confidence Lab, and it's a 12-week live training program specifically for that type of people. And we do role playing in there, and it's amazing. I get from you, from when we met, everything I read about you, you're a fairly confident person. So am I. But I'll tell you this: the testimonials I've received and the results that people received far exceeded my expectations. And I'm actually looking to transition everything I'm doing to only focus on working with accidental going forward. Yeah, it's very cool. You suggest that for women, because your company is specifically designed to help companies, but it's really about women empowerment. So you suggest that for women, a normal organization is not a level playing field, that women don't have an even a chance. Even the most forward-thinking companies often face persistent barriers that get in the way of women's full participation in their advancement. And you suggest these barriers include discrimination, unconscious bias, unequal growth opportunities, and a limited understanding of the different stages that women go through in their lives. So my first question is really, why do these barriers exist at all? And how do they affect women and the companies that they work for?
So let's start by saying that I don't think this is something that is the fault of men. I just think that when fish swim in water, they don't always know that they're swimming in water. They just happen to be in the water. So we you will have, in any research you've ever done on me, you'll know that I never go down the route of, oh my God, I hate men. They should be, so never ever, because I don't think that's helpful for anyone. So the thing is actually that men and women, if you look at this, think of you as being normal. If you're normal, what does that make me? It makes everything that I need and require and have to be abnormal by virtue of you being normal. Yeah. Now that doesn't
be normal.
Well, not at the same time in the same way.
Okay.
So just because you're normal, what it does is well, no, you are, because most of the world is built around someone that looks and sounds like you. And that's not a bad thing. It just is. Now, if we could take away good and bad from this, my life would be so much better. And so would yours and everybody else's, because that's really distracts from what we're trying to achieve. But where normal is built to take you, normal is not therefore built to take me, because I, as a woman, will need, you bring your biology to work. Your biology to work means you need a loo and you need a cafe and you need a restaurant. My biology to work means that I need to manage my periods. I need to manage childbirth. I need to manage child feeding. I need to manage managing those children and being the person that runs a house. And I need to manage perimenopause. Then I need to manage elderly parent care. And then I need to manage, everything else. I mean, you get exhausted just saying it, but that is my normal.
And I'm guilty hearing you say it.
I don't want you to feel guilty, but
no, I get it.
They're different. And
yes.
So when I built something that's fit for purpose for you, it actually looks like a table with uneven legs for me. So instead of making you, so it came to my mind because I was like, instead of making men wrong, what if we just made environments fit for the biology of both people to be able to come in comfortably, as in men and women. So if you, and the way that nobody minds that, like nobody looks at a urinal and go, well, I wish it had periods and pads in it, in tampons. And nobody looks at a loo and thinks, oh, I wish there was a urinal in it. And if they do, we have an issue, right? But generally speaking, we don't do that. So why don't we just create environments that coexist comfortably within the same roof, but are biologically compatible? And that's all we ever do. We come from the place that we're not right, we're not wrong, we're just not you.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you say that because, I think about the questions I'm going to ask in advance. And as I was developing the questions I was planning on asking you, I kept asking myself, am I going to be coming across to Geeta as a typical man chauvinist? Because I that's not who I am. I believe, like I think you do, men and women are different, and that's not a bad thing. We just are. I'm a big fan of the book from, 30, 40 years ago. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We are we're both humans, but we're different humans and we have different needs and different things. So I'm very glad to hear you say that because I was concerned you were going to go, oh, a typical male just putting down women. And
I think the fact that you're asking the questions and enabling the answers immediately takes you out of the misogynistic, chauvinistic bag into a caring, wanting to learn bag.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm the typical man in some of my beliefs. Like I believe women are stronger than men.
Well,
Maybe not physically, but I've watched childbirth twice. Yeah, the very first time that my now ex-wife gave birth, she's in the hospital and the doctor comes in and he goes, okay, you're 10 centimeters, you're dilated. The nurse is going to come in and work with you now. And this typically takes somewhere between 10 and 12 hours. And, the nurse comes in and, she's push. And she's 30 seconds in. And I'm going, just cut her open. No human can do this for 10 or 12 hours. Now, it turned out she had a very easy for me, but an easy birth. It was only like an hour. But I watched and I'm like, God, if I had to do that, I'd never have a second. I still don't understand how women have a second child.
Oh, because nature cons us into forgetting it.
Yeah, it's got to be, you forget. Because look, I broke my collarbone once, and that was amazingly painful. I don't think it was as painful as pushing a 10-pound bowling ball out of your body. So I am glad to hear you say that not all men are bad just by virtue of being men. So when a company addresses these issues that you're talking about, how does that help companies thrive? I mean, can't all men be in the workplace, or do we need, what is adding women and giving them an equal chance? What does that do for companies?
Well, why don't we turn the question on its head? What is the value of being able to sell to 100% of the population instead of 50?
That's a great question. And we're going to talk more about that later because I have a question about that.
Right. It's really very simple. Like if you want to sell things to women, then you have to have women in the pipeline build for you to understand how to sell to a woman.
That makes perfect sense because I am the first to say I do not understand women. I wish I did, but maybe I'd still be married if I did. But they're a mystery to me. It's probably why I sit alone a lot and don't go out and date. It's a mystery. But I don't know what makes women tick because I don't have that experience. We have some shared experiences as humans, but I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to have to, bleed 3 or 5 days a month, or I certainly don't know what it is to pump out a baby or have the main responsibility. My ex-wife, a wonderful mother and a great woman, and we don't want to live together, but she's fantastic. Yeah. She had a very, very different experience, especially after we got divorced, than I did. I mean, I respect the heck out of her and thank her almost every day, at least in my mind, for producing these 3 magnificent human beings, which I certainly helped with financially. But when it came to raising them and making sure that they were doing the right thing and studying, it's all her. In fact, I've told my kids that if you didn't live with your mom growing up, you would not be the successes you are right now, because I never would have made you study. My attitude, Geeta, was always, you don't want to wear your coat? Don't wear your coat. You don't want to eat? Don't eat. You don't want to study? Don't study. But she made them. And fortunately, they all are thriving.
Yeah, hooray.
I almost said thank God, but thank Jackie.
Yeah.
So what is the womanist movement? I saw that on your website, and that sounded interesting. What's the womanist movement?
I kind of got to the place where I thought, there is a place where there is a balance between men and women. And when you create an imbalance, then anything that's imbalanced goes to toxicity. So even if you take masculine, feminine, it goes into imbalance. The masculine can tip heavily into a state of toxicity because it's extreme, it's unchecked, it doesn't have any balance. It happens with, if you take an ecosystem and there's zebras and there's monkeys and you kill one of them, the other takes over and it becomes a much deprived landscape because of that. And so I started looking at this and I was like, women are really 50% of the population. What happens if we actually treat women as 50% of the population and we help them to see themselves as that, help the world to react like that, help everything to interact with women being 50% of the population. So it's very simple. See and hear women as 50% of the population, not the silent 10% that do all the unpaid work or whatever the other tropes are for negativity around women. And it started with a concept that I wanted to reimagine the world for women. And I thought, if you just think that normal is white man and traditional is rich white man, everything else is woman, what is that? You have nothing left, which is the shocking part, because there isn't the normal and there isn't the traditional. So where do we fit? Who are we? What do we want? What do we need? And I realized those things had never been defined or delineated for us. For example, if you look at power, which I am very accustomed to, but attracted to for myself, not to marry power, have sex with power, be with power, me being the most powerful woman that I know and one of the most powerful people that I know. If you talk to women about power, and I coach a lot of very, very wealthy, very famous women, they'll be like, oh, I don't want to be powerful. because they see power as a toxic masculine trait. And I'm like, but women have a power that is power for women. So you have to redefine so much of the world so women see it fitting them as clothing. And so to me, that's what the purpose is of what the womanist movement is. And we're slowly ticking off bits along the way that I think need to happen.
You work internationally, right?
I do.
Yeah. So I'm curious as to your opinion about America in particular. It feels to me like we're behind the curve here. In fact, I saw a video just this morning. Oh, I forgot the guy's last name. Scott, somebody's really smart guy. He's all over social media these days, and he's on TV. He's really brilliant. And he was saying, I don't think it's good that America put up a woman to be elected president in the next election. Now, we've had two great female candidates for the last two elections, and they both lost to the same, or the last three elections, but they both lost to the same guy, let's call him. Personally, this is just me. I want a woman leader. I think men have done a really good job of screwing up the world and certainly screwing up this country. But there's a feeling either, I didn't watch the whole video, but I don't think his point was that women can't do the job. I believe his point was he doesn't think women can get elected just because of sexism. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is America really behind the curve in the rest of the world, or is this really all over the world? And what do you think about that thing with women getting elected?
So let me preface this by saying that I've been traveling in and out of the United States since 2010 in order to learn from America, because marketing in America is eons before anyone else. Sales in America is eons plus before anyone else. And a lot of the innovation around the things that are digital, that really mattered to me. So I have traveled 2 to 3 times a year, and every single one of my mentors has been American. So just preface this before I do anything else, starting with Jay Abrams, actually, and love the man. Yeah. I'm going all the way through, and I should say, and so about 60 to 70% of my clients were American as well, and I have a very, very deep soft spot in my world for American women, who I think are phenomenal people. They really are. I actually weirdly have now American men as clients and not as many American women, which is funny, but here's where we are. So when I say that, and I was in the US this year, and I was there in January and then again in March, and I was like, okay, so I'm not coming back at all. For the next few years. I'm just not coming back. I will fly back. The thing with the United States is that the level, and my daughter wanted to go to the US to go to school, to NYU last year. And I was like, there is no recourse against rich white men in America. So if you go to the US and something goes wrong, I can't protect you, look after you, get back. I can't do anything. And so you're not going. And she was livid. And I was like, I'm sorry, but you're just not doing it. So the thing with America is it's not only the overturning of Roe v. Wade, it's also going into the place which was done by the Christian nationalist movement. I mean, they funded that entire thing. But it also comes down to the fact that now what we're looking at in the US is one family, one vote. Now, what this means is a rollback of every single right women have ever had, because, there is no need for them to have that right. And for me, whoever Scott is, if Scott thinks that women shouldn't stand up because of sexism, Scott is part of the problem. So let's counteract that with signatures that went through the EU Parliament recently. 1 million signatures were made to make abortion legal in every single EU country, so 27 countries. And it was put up because it passed the 1 million thing. It's come through to the European Union to be voted on, and should go through, except for the fact that the Christian nationalists have now arrived in the UK to try and overturn our abortion laws, because the playbook is the playbook. And I think two things. One, I think that I am very grateful to people like Donald Trump, because he is so he says everything that people try and hide. So the last time he came into power, we had the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement. And this time around, we're watching things like the abduction of Maduro, when actually it was done before, but somehow we didn't see it happening. Panama, the same thing happened, right? But we didn't see it happening. So now we get to see everything up front. So you now know how strong you have to be to balance this in the rest of the world. But the rest of the world doesn't have quite that latent, inbuilt, cohate in America, misogyny that drives through absolutely everything. But because America has such a huge impact on the rest of the world, for every level from petrodollars through to the movie industry, it's slowly filtering, but there's causing a backlash, and it's forcing us to think, who are we? Do we believe this or do we not? And as of yet, I'm happy to say, we don't believe this.
Yeah.
A very long answer, I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. Look, whatever any listeners' political views are, they're your own and you're entitled to them. But if anything good comes from Donald Trump, if we don't go completely down the tubes, it is exactly what you're saying. He says whatever's on his mind and he points out everything that is, as far as I'm concerned, wrong. And by the way, I love that you said that we're far ahead of the rest of the world in marketing and sales. And here's why. I've been to London more than once to do training for companies. And anytime somebody reaches out to me from overseas and says, hey, will you come and train my team? Of course, I'm thrilled to. I love to, it's very ego gratifying and I love getting paid for what I do and I love what I do. But in my mind, I'm always going, don't you know there are sales trainers in London? I mean, you really want me to? I had a guy who wanted to fly me all the way to Qatar to do training. I'm like, there's got to be sales trainers there. So
there is, but usually the US training, it's getting better, I have to say. And now I will go locally for that training. But honestly, the US I'm always learning in these terms. Everything else culturally, and the food and Medicaid, I'm like, we'll leave that with you, and we'll just take.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. We really don't need that over here. So
I don't mind the food, but some of that other stuff I'm not happy with. Here we've had a big now anti-DEI initiative, and a lot of what you do is kind of around DEI. Is the current anti-DEI feelings of the current U.S. administration affecting women? And if so, how?
It's absolutely affecting women across the world. I had a client come in yesterday who was explaining that her business, a DEI business, which is based in Europe and Asia and the Middle East, is dead. Like dead. It's dropped to 7% from 92% of her revenue. And what is happening is that the American corporations have evolved into a bully boy kind of approach, which we see across most of American politics at the moment. And what is happening is they're basically saying, we will not interact with you unless your DEI policies are like ours. And so it's happening in two ways, where companies that are using it as an excuse to dump all their DEI are like, thank you, God, and dumping it. And then companies are being forced to sign documents saying that they no longer will hire for DEI, but they'll hire for the best, as though when you hired for DEI, you were hiring an idiot, It is on the other hand, so but my business is not DEI. Like, I run a health and wellness business for 15 years. My business is women. I don't care where they come from. And our delineation is not as much as the United States, because we don't have that history of slavery in the same way, right? We have the history of colonization. So yay goes me, because I'm an Indian born in Africa and I was colonized twice over. And we have made peace with how we interact with that, because I'm now sitting in England. But in the US, that has a huge grip on the psyche with what you guys do. And we don't have quite that over here. So there's a slight difference in how we approach women and women's topics. I don't know another way to put that. It just is a more delicate approach, and it's no sledgehammer, because we don't need as much of a sledgehammer. Do we get ignored? Yes. Is there racism? Yes. Is somebody going to go, can you please get stuffed out of my face regularly? On the other hand, do I care? No. I don't feel I have to claw my way up from a pit every single day, which is how I feel a lot of American women do.
Gotcha. Now, some people feel that whoever is the best fit for the job is who should get the job, regardless of gender, race, or anything else. If a man is clearly the best fit for the job based on skills and experience, is there still an advantage to placing a woman in that role?
It's just the wrong question. The question is that when you decided the man was the best fit for the job, were you comparing an even playing field where you were looking at both men and women? Now, most of the pipelines that are coming through show that when you're checking out who to put in a job, you have 95% of the candidates are male and 2% of the candidates are female. And we tend to hire with people who look and sound like us because we're comfortable with that. So if a man is hiring, traditionally, he will hire a man. So you're not actually measuring apples and oranges. You're not measuring apples and apples, you're measuring apples and oranges. So that question isn't right. It isn't that you hire the best person for the job, you hire the best available person for a job. And that's usually a guy.
I got it. Yeah.
I remember when I went to law school in this country, like 7,000 years ago, and I was looking for a job. And they would say, we just can't hire enough brown people. And we'd be like, why? I'm like standing right here. And they'd be like, there just aren't enough of them. And you'd just be like, oh, and you'd carry on, because that's what we say about women. But there just aren't enough. They really are. But if you can't see them, you can't see them.
Gotcha. Again, I don't think I'm the typical human, or at least guy. Speaking of London, I came to London one time to work with a company, and they were a company that sold, it was a networking organization for CIOs. In other words, the chief geek in any organization, they had a networking organization for them. And when I got there, I was in the room with 15 sales reps, all women, 100% women. And I walked away going, this is the most brilliant company in the world. If I was forming a company, and I have a company, but I'm a solopreneur, I never wanted to build an organization. I said, I'd hire all women.
Well, for sales, for sure.
Yeah. Look, to me, a woman salesperson who's good at their job has a distinct advantage, because men are dogs. Now, there are some men who will talk to a woman simply because she's attractive and he's got other things on his mind. But, I teach that sales is not about manipulation or anything like that. But, on a subtle basis, an attractive woman, I think, will have an advantage. Assuming everything else, intelligence, skills, and all that stuff, an attractive woman has an advantage, and certainly in selling to men. Maybe not women. And actually, that's a question for you now that I think about it. Do women have a disadvantage in selling to other women, or is there an advantage there, or is it an even playing field?
I think it's a generational thing. Like we were talking earlier today about a woman who's very well known here, and consistently about this woman, other women will say she behaves like a man. Right? So for us, we call those man women. And then there's the women. So there's the man women who came from usually it's slightly generational, and it's women who had to become men in order to get to where they're going. And they literally, absolutely physically attributes are female, but they literally interact like men on every other level. And it's like, what do you mean women have a problem? I never had a problem. Why would you have a problem? Why aren't you doing it like I did? And you're like, so it depends. Whereas generally speaking, if you're talking to another woman, you can interact with that woman through a connection. And it's easier to sell to somebody if you're connecting with them and they're feeling what you're talking about and you're feeling what their need is and you fulfill that need, then it's an easier sale, right? But it depends on what kind of woman you're talking to. And there are some women that just don't like other women, and we're human. We don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. I think my thought was, I don't want to come across as sexist. Maybe this is. I think sometimes women feel they're in competition with other women. And
it depends on the kind of women. The women that only interact by succeeding through manipulating men don't want other women around. So if you ever look at a woman who thinks she's in competition with another woman, you'll know that what she's saying is, there's only room for one woman here because all these men are the people that I get to do what I want. Whereas women, the majority of the women that I have the privilege to spend time with today are women that shore up other women.
Love that. You said something, well, you said a bunch of fascinating things, but that the women who are succeeding, they're acting like men. What does that mean, as opposed to acting like a woman?
Well, when I was a lawyer in the beginning and you would go to court, you had to wear a white shirt. And, we had cufflinks and things because that's how you dress, in a black suit. And the only way you knew we were female other than how we looked was because our cufflinks were allowed to be pink, which now I sound and I want to shoot myself in the head. But we just had to behave like guys. Like you couldn't say I have to go home because my child's sick. You couldn't say I have no one to pick up the baby. You couldn't say, oh shit, I've done this. You couldn't interact in any way outside of how a man would interact at work. Because the man would go, but I don't have that problem. Yeah, because you have a wife at home, bitch. Right? So, so I dealt with that by having a wife at home. I have constantly and consistently had a housekeeper who runs my home, feeds my children, does everything, and I don't touch it at all. So I was like, I need a wife. I'll pay for one. Other people do. I just don't have to marry her or sleep with her.
I got it. You say that companies can increase their innovation revenue by 15% by having at least 30% female leaders. Why do female leaders make such a big difference?
It's not even the fact that they're female. It's the fact that you have a mix. It's the fact that if you want to sell something to Africa, wouldn't it help to have an African telling you what Africa needs?
Yeah.
Duh. Well then, If you've only got 30% women and your sales go up, it's because they're telling you something you don't know. Like the way cars are built. Like, what the hell? Why are cars built? Like I'm a big, one of the few ways that I spend money is in performance cars, because I love cars. I love racing. I got to coach a Formula One racing driver this year, which just was my epitome of joy, apoxy of joy. And I get into my car and I'm like, so where does my handbag go?
On the passenger seat, no?
Well, yeah. Then
I never thought of that before, but yeah.
But that's because you're a guy. The minute you brake, that handbag goes flying straight to the corner of the seat and you can't get it anymore. And the reason I have a handbag and you don't is because my clothes don't have pockets and yours do.
Also, I don't wear makeup, so I don't need as much stuff.
Well, that's because you don't get judged on how you look in the same way I do. I being female, as opposed to me.
I get it. Huh. What's your favorite performance car?
Actually, you know, I really like the Ferrari Spider, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Like the Bentleys, I have a huge passion in there, like the Arnage, and some of the Bentleys are just beautiful cars. But at the moment, I'm on a Porsche. So
gorgeous cars.
And you know what? Can I just put this out there? So
Sure.
I wanted to buy a car, and I went to I've never liked Porsche. I went to BMW, Mercedes. I'm trying to think. What's the car that starts with an M, which is not a McLaren, because that's the only one in my brain at the moment. I went to 3 or 4 different places, and it was the worst experience of my life. One guy asked me out on a date. The other guy asked me when my husband was coming to pay for it. The third guy shouted I was wasting his time. It was the most appalling experience. And I was just like, I just want to buy a bloody car. Would you just, which is why I used to buy Bentleys, because Bentley never gave me shit for wanting to buy a Bentley. They were just like, please come and sign this way. And so I went to the Porsche, as you know, out of desperation. And this guy was like 12 years old. And he goes, hi, would you like to go for a test drive? How about this color? I'm like, yes, let's do it. Let me tell you how fast I bought that car. I just bought that car. You know, and you're just like, oh.
He treated you like a human, not a woman.
Exactly. Well, no, like an idiot. It's human versus idiot, not human versus woman.
Yeah. Years ago, I decided that I was going to look into attacking the car training market, auto dealer market, because it's huge. And I looked into it. I don't know about it anymore, but back then there was one company that just dominated. Like almost every car dealership in America used these guys for training. And I managed to take a look at their training program, and I saw internal documents. It was not all, but there was a lot of stuff in there about how to sell to women, how to take advantage of them, how to take advantage of minorities. I was truly astounded that anything like that existed, but that is what goes on, and it's crazy. I got to tell you this, which you might like. I don't know if you've ever heard of the BMW challenge, but I did that at one point. BMW, it was brilliant marketing on their part. There's a huge arena near me called Nassau Coliseum with, of course, a huge parking lot, with concerts there and stuff. And they took over the parking lot, set up cones, and to make a racetrack. And you got to drive a Lexus. There's one, a Lexus, something else, and a BMW. But sitting in the passenger seat was a professional race car driver telling you exactly what to do. And I love driving fast. I love speed. I drive a Jeep, but I drive it like it's a Lamborghini. I drive everything like it's a performance car, even though I shouldn't. But yeah, it was just incredible. I love cars. I'm not a car freak, but I love speed. I love handling.
Eventually used to fly us out to the Le Mans racetrack to try the new cars as they came out. So I drove the Arnage before it came out way back when, and it was huge amounts of fun. They should totally feel free to do that again for me if they ever feel like it.
So what should sellers, what should women who sell know that may be different from how you feel men in sales? What do women need to know that men don't?
I don't understand the question. Explain that to me again.
Women salespeople.
Yeah.
What do they need to know in order to be successful that might be different from what you think men need to know? Or is it
who are they selling to?
Anybody.
I don't think that's.
Do you think it's industry specific or?
Well, no, I don't think women need to know something that men don't. I think it's more like that men need to understand that when they sell to women, they should sell differently. Because women know how to sell differently to women than sell to a man. They know that.
That was my next question, Geeta.
Because
what should a man know about selling to a woman? That's maybe a better question.
It's a better question, because when you look at women and men, the oppressed always knows the oppressor better than the oppressor knows themselves.
Okay.
So a woman never needs training on how to sell to a man or a woman. She doesn't. It's what she does every flipping day of every minute of her life. We do that instinctively because we have traditionally not as much money as men, not as much power, not as much control, not as much space. So to get to where we're going, we're constantly just selling and charming. And that's why they're like, smile. And you're like, yeah, sure. You know, whereas guys, when they sell to women, don't understand that. So they will talk about their need. They will condescend. They will this, obviously not all men, and they will patronize and don't even know they're doing any of those things because they don't understand that this is a woman that has constantly been oppressed in one part of her life, even today. And so when you're giving her a choice to sell to a woman, you need to sell with some space. I used to teach people that when you sell to women, hold back that 25% and let them step forward that 25%. Whereas when you sell to a guy, you can just sell, right? But with a woman, when you push, we will literally cut off our noses to spite our face, because this happens to us at every single interaction we ever have with a man. And you are not going to do this for me. So therefore, I won't allow you to do it. So when you're selling to a woman, sell 75% and let her come towards you for the remaining 25% to be a successful sale.
Yeah, I'm actually going to suggest that that's true for selling to men too. You used a word that I talk about all the time, which is push. If you and I were physically in the same room, and of course I wouldn't do this to anybody, and especially a woman, but if I physically shoved you, if I pushed you, what would you do? You'd most likely push back. Yeah. Well, that's the last thing I want from any prospect, male, female, or anything.
Well, because you're good at selling sales, though, right? That's your job. Whereas the majority,
stop pushing, stop pitching, stop pushing. To me, Geeta, sales is simply, how do I have a bunch of great conversations with people where I find out what they're doing now and how I might be able to help them, and how do I have enough of those so that some of them choose to do business with me? Look, I've been doing this for 50 years and I'm so good at selling. People pay me fairly large amounts of money to teach them how to sell, but right. I don't sell anybody. This is a tough thing to say, but I always say I don't sell anybody. Now, the truth is I do. What I'm doing is selling, but it's not what most people think of selling. I'm not there to convince. I'm not there to persuade. I don't have to talk anybody into anything. And in fact, with all my skill and experience, I don't think I'm good enough to do that unless I'm willing to lie, cheat, or steal, which I'm not. My goal is, how do I have just great conversations where you, the prospect, no matter what gender you are, feel comfortable enough to open up to me and tell me what's really going on so that I can, like a doctor, assess, can I help, Geeta? If so, I'm going to tell you I can. And if not, I'm going to tell you that too. But pushing never works.
So can I extrapolate from that? Because I believe wholeheartedly in what you've just said. And let me extrapolate from that into networking, which is also a form of selling. And it's that thing. It is a form of selling. You're selling yourself during networking.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? And you're trying to say, and the problem with doing that is that when you sit in front of people and you're selling yourself with networking, people will lead with what they want. And it is fatal. And that's the problem with pushy selling. It's about what you need, not what I need. Whereas if you go into conversations where, and this is all what I do all day, every day. And if you go into conversations and what you're saying is, hey, hi, tell me about you. What is it that you do? And then can I tell you about me? I'll tell you about me. And then we look at what we're doing and we look at the conversation we're having, and then we go from there. But the people that come, and a caveat, there are times I'm speaking to someone, I go, listen, I just need this one thing. Can I just ask you if you can give it to me or not? Because I just actually need this one thing. And that's a very different thing. But there I'm not pitching. I'm just asking for what I need, right? And I do that as well, but I'm clear when I'm doing that. The rest, I have been famous, right? I spent a part of my 20s and 30s being famous because I spent a lot of time on TV, a lot of time in politics, a lot of time. I have had more impact in the last 2 years of my life and a bigger influence and more collaborations with bigger organizations, from Google Venture Capital through to Snap, by not in any way doing anything other than just talking to people. And I'm talking about, in theory, is a subject that is terrible, right? It's a red flag to talk about women and all that stuff. And having those conversations, I have more influence and impact today than I ever had being well known. It's insane.
Yeah. Fortunately for people like me who teach salespeople, most salespeople don't understand the most basic stuff. I'm constantly amazed, and I've talked about this with other coaches and trainers, that I often am talking to people and they're saying stuff, and in my head, I'm going, how do they not know this? What I'm telling them is the most basic thing you could possibly think of. How do they not know this? But without the proper exposure to the right people and the right books and the right training, you just don't. I believe things have made progress over the years, even though that progress may be slow and is certainly not complete. But there are still sales representatives who sell to families. I sold Encyclopedia Britannica as my first job. You may be too young. Those were books.
No, I know exactly what they are. Thank you very much. That's why I'm laughing. That's the door to door.
It was door to door. I did that for 8 years. I was
that will make you the best salesman in the world.
Their training was incredible for how to sell Encyclopedia Britannica. It wasn't great for how to sell everything, but it was great for how to sell Encyclopedia Britannica. And because it was my first job, my feeling was, well, I'm too stupid to do anything else. I'm just going to do exactly what they told me. And I kid you not, I did exactly what they taught me. By the end of my first month, I was in the top 10 sales representatives out of 2,500 in the US. And by the end of month 3, I never left the top 3 for 8 years. They made me a manager. I mean, and it was simply because I did exactly what they taught me to do. But here's my point. We were selling to families. I was, if you showed up for the appointment and the husband was there without the wife, nope, we'll reschedule, or the wife without the husband. Because if you did do what's called a one-legged pitch, you've only got one decision maker. Well, when they found out the price, which is all they really wanted to know. Everybody knew Encyclopedia Britannica was what they wanted. They just wanted to hear the price, and we never gave it out. It was a rule. You don't give it out without giving a presentation. So if I showed up and the wife was there without the husband, or the husband without the wife, we'd reschedule, because if not, you get to the end and they go, $2,000. Oh, that's more than I expected. I do have to talk to my wife about that, or I do have to talk to my husband about that. But one of the things we were taught, and I think that so many times it doesn't happen, was when you've got both of them there, don't just look at the husband. Even if you think he's the decision maker, you got to include the wife and give them equal time and attention, because you don't know what the power dynamic is, and you don't know who's going to make the decision. So our sales reps who would go into a meeting like that and only talk to the husband, like you said, car dealerships. You keep quiet, babe. I'll talk to the decision maker over here. Come over here, man. Are these built on built-in prejudices that we just have had forever as male sales reps? And what do we need to do to educate them, to have them wake up and go, idiot, come on?
Is the correct answer that they should take your course? Because I feel like that's probably
I don't really talk about that anymore. Although maybe I should. It's funny. This course that I just told you about that I've created, somebody wrote to me yesterday and said, hey, is there any chance you can include how to make the best use of your CRM in the program? I'm like, well, isn't that brilliant? I should have thought of that myself. And of course that should be included. So maybe I should include something about don't neglect the woman. Maybe you and I need to partner and put together a program about selling to.
I'm a huge fan. Let's do. I once wrote this program for a private equity house. They were selling investment into funds, and I wrote a sales program for women. The thing with it is that traditionally it's the men that have the money. And because traditionally men make money, people who sell things think that men control money. And those are two very different things. Having money and controlling the spend of that money are not the same thing. So you want to see, because you don't know who's doing that, number one. Number two, about 4 years ago, Morgan Stanley did a huge piece in the United States, in New York, where they talked about the wealth transfer to women. And everybody needs to wake right up, because what is happening is the majority of wealth is being transferred into the hands of women. So in theory, this year, 65% of the wealth in the UK will be in the hands of women. And I don't know how much Trump has upset the dynamic, but in last year in the United States, over 50% of the wealth was in the hands of women. So it's coming to a cinema near you. If you don't know how to sell to a woman, your life is going to suck.
Unless you only sell to men.
And I don't think that's a possibility if you're in any consumer product.
Yeah.
Even Viagra, no, like none. You're just not going to be only selling to men if you're doing anything that is consumer retail led, because you best believe that even if that's an off-roader that you're buying, if it comes from a joint budget, it's coming from a joint budget. That means that there is not one point of control.
Excellent. We've got a question from somebody in the audience, and I know this gentleman personally, and he's often a wise guy. So I don't know if he's being a wise guy and just looking to piss you off, or he's really asking the question, but we're going to bring it up anyways. Professor Peter Ekstrom, who's an expert on cold calling, and he created the gold call system. He says, why are women such demanding customers? Pete, I'm not sure if that question's a legitimate one, but Geeta, what do you have to say about that one?
I would say that if you're trying to sell to someone and you think they're being demanding, I think it's more that you're not giving them the information they need to make a decision. That doesn't make the customer wrong. That means you need to give them more information. And what often happens is that the information men need is very different to the information women need. So what you're going to do is look at this and go, but if a guy was doing this, yeah, but he would use it differently. So if you created a female answer and a male answer, Pete, you might find that women wouldn't be demanding anymore. You'd have nailed it all up front. Collect everything that the women have told you, answer all those questions. The next time you talk to a woman, lead with that data. I guarantee you, and do feel free to reach out, that she won't be demanding you because you'll have answered her questions.
Gotcha.
It's not like she's not busy, right? She has shit to do. She doesn't need to be sitting here harassing you unless that's her only job, in which case I would ask myself what you did. But that's another story.
All right. Now, being an older guy, traditional marriages when I was growing up a million years ago had the male as the main breadwinner. And while that still may be the majority, I think it's still the majority, but it's certainly changed. But I think more men are breadwinners than women. But with more and more women in the workplace today and in positions of authority, what do women need to be aware of to avoid burnout? Because you said it before, they got to do their work, and then they go home, and unless they're in a position like you where you can afford to hire a nanny or a housekeeper, they got to take care of the kids too, unless they have a good husband who's going to help. So how do they avoid burnout?
So you just said the husband had to be good to help. Does he get to babysit his own kids too?
Shouldn't he?
Yeah, then he's not good if he's helping. It's part of what he should be doing anyway, right? Okay, so I think that women are brought up very differently to men in terms of people pleasing. If there's this study that was done that if you ask a 3-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl what they want to eat, they'll tell you what they want to eat. 7-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl, ask them what they want to eat, they'll tell you what they want to eat. When you hit a 13-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl, the boy will tell you what he wants to eat, and the girl would say, what are you having? And it's really heartbreaking. But women are brought up to people please because we are commoditized extremely early so that we are willing to take on all the backbreaking work and not get paid for it and do all the stuff that we do as women. So when you are looking at women, that is something you clearly want to understand as a woman. I did a conference November last year, and I said to a room of 500 entrepreneurs, remember you were brought up to be people pleasers. Fight that obstacle and everything else works instead of it. So like most of the women that I coach actually increase the amount of money that they're making. So I have a client that came in, she was turning over 15 million and it took her 10 years to get to 15 million. And I'm not making this up. This is recorded. And it took us to get her from 15 million to 52 million. It took us 7 years. Because what we did was we changed her mindset. Women have a very big difference between their self-confidence and their self-esteem. Men don't, because your self-confidence is linked to your ability to provide. And so when men are providing, they feel confident. Women can turn up, look good, make money, and hate themselves inside all the time. And that's what leads to burnout and overwhelm. So I don't have a housekeeper because I can afford it. What I do is I have a housekeeper because I have allocated never buying a designer outfit or whatever. And instead, this is the money that I will spend. Right? Because I don't have insecurity about or self-esteem issues. Whereas if I had self-esteem issues, I'd need the expensive handbag to make me feel better.
You don't need a Birkin bag?
No, not yet. Come back to me in a couple of years and we'll see how that goes.
To me, that's mind-blowing. I guess if I had ridiculous amounts of money, I wouldn't mind, buying gifts for $70,000 for a bag. But
yeah, but you'd buy 70,000 pounds of stock and the Birkin would outpace your stock. It is. Okay. It's absolutely one of the fastest growing investments in the last 4 years.
So I should be investing in bags instead of
Microsoft. Not only that, it would make so many of the women in your life so happy. Ensure them while you're at it.
By the way, Dr. Pete says, excellent answer. So maybe he wasn't being a wise guy. Thank you, Pete, for not being a wise guy today. Although I always appreciate your humor, Pete. What is a W Corp? Your company is W Corp. What's a W Corp ambassador?
What we're doing is we're saying that we want people to take the word out, that what we're trying to do is have a conversation about how to make workplaces I want to find language that's not loaded, places where women can bring their biology to work. So we go into workplaces and we're like, let's help you to work out how women will feel happy at work, safe at work, productive at work, and they will stay at work over the lifetime. So the investment you put into the woman is paid back 20-fold. Instead of the 2 breaks in the pipelines that we have, where they tend to leave around 32 and 45. And you lose the money you've invested in them, and you don't know why you're losing it. It's always like, oh, they just leave. They don't just leave. They leave because the environment is toxic and they can't stand it, so they walk away. They don't walk away because they don't need the money. They walk away because they can't bear it another day. So if we can help you with very small tweaks, really, no one will give a toss about any of them. They're tiny, tiny things that women just need. And they're productivity-based hacks as opposed to performance-based hacks. Performance, again, is a very masculine thing. How I show up and how you see me doing what I'm doing, that's masculine. What I'm producing is very feminine. And little things make a big difference. And it means you make more money.
Like what? What are some of the little things that make a difference for women in the workplace?
So, for example, if I'm having a period, right? Let's just say I'm having a period. And thank you for not falling over because I said the word period. But if I'm having a period and I cannot get out of bed and function, and I'll start functioning at 11:30, 12 o'clock, let me be and tell me what you need by when you need it. I will make sure you have that thing. I just cannot do it at 8 a.m. in the office. My minuscule thing, which is why the pandemic helped women so much. Because it gave us a space to be able to allow our biology to dictate what we were doing.
Amazing.
And really, would it affect you? No. You just want the work delivered.
Yeah.
Like imagine a freelancer. If you've got a freelancer, are you policing how that freelancer's work? No, you're just like, can you send me the stuff? Because you're a solopreneur. You're like, just send me the thing by this thing. Do you give a toss how they do it? Not even a bit. Just send it.
I have a VI. I don't know what the heck he does. I just know he gets stuff done when it's supposed to be done. And he's doing work that it would be way too expensive for me to do it. It's far better for me to pay him $15 an hour than the X amount of dollars that I earn per hour. Same principle. It doesn't affect your working life. It gives you a sense of comfort knowing that it will be delivered, and it will be delivered on time. Why do you care how it's delivered? I don't.
It's old fashioned.
2 days ago, you posted on LinkedIn that January is a time of year when we push ourselves as hard as we can. What's your message to women at the beginning of this year?
Well, that message would have been a bit different about a week and a half ago. Now, post what's happening in America at the moment, I think I wrote about this earlier today, that this is a world that is going to reward women that are the strongest, most aligned, most powerful versions of themselves. So if you want to push yourself to produce, that's your business, and you will feel overwhelmed and tired. But if you want to push yourself to become the most powerful version of you that responds to your own self-esteem, I'm a huge fan of that. Do more of that.
A recent report, you posted about this too, a recent report said that half of...
I feel a bit stalked.
Sorry?
I said I feel a bit stalked.
The report that you talk about said that half of companies don't think that a woman's career advancement is a priority. Why not? And why should it?
Well, I think some of that is our fault. What women do is they do not do workplace politics very well at all. So when a man goes to work, he does his job and then he tells you he's done his job. He tells everyone he's done his job and how amazing he is. And have you seen this? And oh my God, women will do the work and then they'll do it 110% and then they'll wait for it to be noticed.
And you may be waiting a long time.
Yeah.
All right. I'm watching the clock and I've got 18 million more questions for you, but I think we'll end on this one. I found this interesting. I don't know what it is. What is the Halo scandal and how does it show why companies have to listen to women?
I actually don't remember what the Halo scandal is. I'm sorry. You said to me that someone's going to ask people questions and they're not going to know the answer. And I'm like, how can you not know the answer? And here you're asking me something. I'm just going to Google what the Halo scandal is for a hot minute because I could have fudged that.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, no, they...
So
okay.
while Geeta's Googling that...
Sky News. No. already happened. Sky News created a sort of a dumbed down female sports section. And they were like, oh, this is women in sports. And because how women, when they play sports, are obviously not as good as men and not as competent as no one watches it and all this stuff. They created this sports content. And then after a while, they deleted it because they're like, oh, nobody cares. It turned out not only did the women care, they were vociferous and loud about the fact that they cared. So Sky News had to retract the fact that they dumped it and put it all back up again.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, Geeta,
I didn't know it was called a Halo scandal. That's really interesting. I'd forgotten that.
So what Geeta's talking about is, I let people know in advance that I've done my homework and I've got a bunch of questions. I'm going to send you the questions in case you want to look at them, because I've had people show up way more than once and say, I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff, except I took those questions from either your website or your LinkedIn feed. So it's hilarious that it worked out.
I know. Allow me to be part of the crowd here.
I'm happy to have you as part of the crowd, and I'm thrilled that you gave us some time and attention today. You are magnificent. I love talking to you, and I could talk to you all day. Before we go, Geeta, I don't have anything that I can share on screen, but how can people reach you if they'd like to talk to you, work with you, find out more about what you do? What's the best way to contact you?
Any form of social media. Please go to LinkedIn, please go to Instagram, go to TikTok. And it has been an absolute pleasure. It's been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And how about your website? You want to give that out?
Yeah, GeetaSidhu-Robb.com. So everything is just my name. Type in my name and all the different versions of it will turn up. Otherwise, wcorporation.org will take you through to W Corp and what we do there in terms of workplaces, investment criteria, allyship criteria. We have lots of stuff there.
Okay. And because we're doing this on video and it's live, the people who are watching this or who watch the replay will be able to look for your name and spell it properly because they see it. But this will get converted to a podcast in a couple of weeks. So for those who are listening, if they want to reach you on social media, how do you spell your name?
So Geeta is G-E-E-T-A. My surname is Sidhu-Robb, S-I-D-H-U-R-O-B-B, B for Bertie.
Absolutely, positively great. So, Geeta, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance with us so generously and for starting off the 2026 year of the Sales Pro Network. And I will end as I always do. Gang, please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. You got almost 365 days to do it. Get to it right now. And if you need my help, reach out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, Geeta.